Hello, everybody. Welcome to our final session of How to Make Money with Email, the Mastermind. The Mastermind brought to you by Raptive, our friends at Raptive that are doing us a solid by making this possible. I love it. Can I start off with a little what I'm seeing in the industry right now? I've been telling you about this, but I am saying this more in this Mastermind than I ever have ever. Stuff is happening, and it's happening this week, right now in our digital landscape. I am busier than ever. I am getting more calls for consultations or setups, and with what Google announced this week, with the pending stuff that's happening with cookies, as we've been talking about. Man, it's just like all of a sudden people care very deeply about their email list. And I love it. I don't love that the panic that might be causing some of that for people, but I do love that it is driving attention to the fundamentals that are really important. And it's not just in digital marketing, in this traditional space. I had a call with a massive publishing company this week that does physical books, because they see the writing on the wall as well, and how things are changing, and how important it is to own your audience. So as we're kind of doing our wrap-up final session here, I encourage you to think about your brand and how can email help. Somebody asked, if you knew that your business was going to be drastically different a year from now, what would you do differently now? And my answer, of course, would be I'd be building my list as big as possible. Because for all the reasons we've been talking about, we control that, and we have the opportunity to, and even if our business changes for the better a year from now, we are going to be healthier. It's like eating our veggies. We know we should do it, and we put it off and we put it off. So I hope that you're taking this opportunity to reinvigorate your passion for email and finding the ROI, the implied ROI, that even if it's not today, down the road, where this could be, and to future-proof your business, and more importantly, to build your brand. So let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about something that is changing a lot right now. There is a lot of new opportunities to sell space in your newsletter. I know many of you don't do sponsored posts or sponsorships with brands. I know it's a hassle. I have been that brand partner. So I can tell you from that perspective where they're coming from. Sorry, this lighting is driving me crazy. But what's happening in the space right now is, imagine a world where your advertising opportunities, if you're a brand, are changing. And I don't want to say drying up, but in a world where cookies are possibly going away. I have to throw this thing out. I apologize. I think I got it fixed now. In a world where cookies might be going away, what does a brand have to do? Their world is changing a little bit too. Their ability to just throw budget at stuff is changing. So they're going to be looking for new ways to get in front of an audience. And there's a lot of cool new things out there right now related to email. So let's go through some of that. Down in the chat, let me know. Do you do, yes or no? Simple question. Do you currently do sponsored posts for your social or web posts, website? Do you do that kind of sponsorship? All right, as you are typing, I'm going to be doing this. I assume that the answer for the reason for no is it's a pain. Is that a fair reason? Just what, not worth the hassle? And today, I'm not trying to convince you to do that, but I do want to be realistic about what the possibilities are here. Just rarely get frustrated. We want to give product and no money. Okay, that's frustrating too. I'm speaking specifically of cash for instead of just product. If you had that, would you be doing it? Promoting stuff that you don't actually use, it feels disingenuous, right? Disingenuous. I agree. I understand that. So let's talk about what are the possibilities if you want to dive into this space. So first of all, you've seen it, assuredly. There are big time newsletters out there that some of you have subscribed to in the past, The Hustle, Morning Brew, those types of newsletters, The Skim, where it's very clearly delineated in an email that a portion of it is an ad. And there's lots of different ways to go about that. As many different ways as you can create different templates. Somebody is doing it. So as far as, let's pretend for a minute that you were okay with what it looked like. All right. The question would be, are you willing to use that space, whether it's a dedicated email or just a section of your email, or maybe the logo up top says this email is brought to you by so-and-so. And then down below, there's a article. A sponsorship. Let's assume you're okay with that. Let's assume that there's a brand fit. That exists out there, but it requires work to find it. So let's talk about some of those things. First, some examples. I have a few examples set up here of things that are happening right now in the space. Different ways that different creators are doing this. Here's one from the Real Food Dietitians. In talking with them, they have ads like this. Don't let the best deal of the year slip away. That are, this is down towards the bottom. I want free ground beef. So this is Butcher Box. Some of you are familiar with that. Real Food Dietitians will tell you that a good chunk of their revenue every month comes from selling these spots in their newsletters. And they've had to do that hustle themselves, get out there and find those brands and work it. We're going to talk about the challenges inherent in that. There are other ways to do this where if you don't have a sponsor, you can do what Nourish Move Love does, is sell your own space for your own purposes. She's got a specific resistance band that she likes, and they're in all her videos. And Hope Fitness Gear is a longtime affiliate partner. We talked about affiliate a few days ago. And so she uses a portion of her newsletter to drive people there. There are other things that this one is Stephanie, a copycat. She's just gone for it with Live Intent. Live Intent is an advertising service where they insert the code into your email. She knows that this particular one is not overly, she doesn't love how it looks, I should say. And this particular offer, it is what it is. You can get more sophisticated. You can get more. More targeted with your stuff. I'm just showing you what's out there as you are considering all the possibilities. It doesn't matter what you like or don't like. I just want you to know what is there. Okay. So there are companies that will do this sort of thing, and you, in the case of an email like this, she chooses where to show that ad and then gets paid accordingly. If she shows more ads, she gets paid more, just like as we do with Raptive and the spots where you show the ads. All right, so she's got 1 or 2 or 3, I don't know, 3 that she's showing here. She also has, in Stephanie's case, she has some emails where she does not do the advertising at all. So sometimes she just kind of mixes it up. All right, so not every, I also want you to be thinking about flexibility here. That's the great thing about email, is that not every email has to look exactly the same or be exactly the same format. So if this pays the bills once a month, once a week, a couple times a week, whatever, and then all her other emails look a little different, so be it. Okay, so I'm just scratching the surface here of what's possible. There are other services, and I'll talk about a few of them here in a moment, that that provide ads in newsletters. But doing it yourself, so we have Real Food Dietitians who does it themselves. We have Lindsay, who, when she doesn't have a cash sponsor, she might do an affiliate deal rather than let that inventory go to waste, I guess. And then you've got this scenario where just ads are inserted for you. There are other agencies out there as well that will, just like there are agencies that will sell sponsorships for your newsletter, or for your business as a whole and all your social media channels, they will also find and get newsletter brands. They're not a lot, but there are some. Okay. Questions on that before I continue? Let me jump into some real world things here. Okay, if you decided that you wanted to get started with this, how might you do that? Let's say you were looking to diversify your revenue streams. Well, first of all, you need to have something where you feel comfortable with what it looks like. Okay, so with your newsletter template, where would you show an ad? What placements would you make available? The reason I mention this is that there are some marketplaces out there. One is called paved.com, where you can go on and say, hey, I'll sell my top spot for $600. I'll sell a medium, a middle link for $300 and something at the footer for $200. Okay, you get to set the pricing in those marketplaces, or if nothing else, in your own media kit. You get to tell the brand, I will do this. Next, I would fill this ad space with anything. Well, even if you don't have a sponsor yet, it's a fake it till you make it. Fill it with an affiliate, fill it with a partner, your own product, whatever. Why? A couple reasons. The first is your audience starts to get used to the fact that you're now doing sponsors in your newsletter. Okay, we have to think about them because they're used to, a certain look and a certain amount of content that you've been doing up to this point. And as we saw with how Lindsay did it, it's just, maybe a slightly different colored box. And by the way, if you're thinking that your audience is going to care, there's a handful of them that will, and you'll hear from those at first. The rest will not. We, as a public, are accustomed to digital content having advertising on it. This is how our business is built with Raptive, for crying out loud. So our newsletter, we shouldn't feel shy about doing it well and creating good user experience, but also being able to monetize there. Heck, every YouTube video has in the middle of it, hey, I want to thank Epidemic Sound for providing the music for this video. Let me tell you about them. And then we'll get back to talking about Beanie Babies. Side note, I had a Beanie Baby website at one point. It was my first, I think it was my first real money maker. This was in, Cameron was born, so around the year 2000. So in 1999 or something like that, my wife and I got onto. Did anybody get into Beanie Baby hunting? Did anybody? Or we're the only ones. So like my brother-in-law said, we lived in Seattle, and he's like, hey, we're trying to find this such and such. Will you go look? And at the time, for those that don't know, you're too young. Beanie Babies are these collectible stuffed animals, and here in the United States, it was a craze for about a minute. And they were really smart with their distribution. The stores, like Hallmark stores, would get them, but they didn't know how many they were going to get. They didn't know what they were going to get. And so when they got a shipment, people would wait in line and then go buy them up. So anyway, there was this particular bear that the bears were supposedly worth more, that my brother-in-law was trying to get. And so we stood in line in the rain in Seattle, and then we got hooked. And so for a 2-week period, we accumulated like 98 Beanie Babies. It was insanity. We're newlyweds with no money, spending our disposable income on these stuffed animals. It was crazy. Anyway, after my rational thought kicked in at some point, I created a website. And the website was all about Beanie Babies and how to buy them and sell them off market. And I got a cease and desist from the manufacturers of Beanie Babies. And probably because we were making up, we're like coming up with arbitrary values for these. If you get the parrot or the Izzy the iguana, it's $13 and whatever. So we had it coming. Anyway, sidebar. Anyway, so go back to the ad space. Fill that ad space with something and get people used to it. Oh, the other reason, aside from your audience, is your advertisers. Potential advertisers will be seeing this and they'll go, oh, I can see how their newsletter might be used for this. I thought of one more thing. At the bottom of that newsletter, put something, a link that says sponsor this newsletter. And that fills out a type form or a Google form and emails you when somebody is interested. You might be eye-opening to see who follows you, and if I mean, it's kind of a why not, right? If nobody ever uses it, nobody ever uses it. But this tells the world that you're this, and this tells the world that you do this for a living. Also, you're going to want to know what your demographics are. You're going to want to know this anyway, but do your best. There's plenty of models out there. This is a topic for another day, but create a simple survey where you find out the demographics of your audience. You need that to be able to sell ButcherBox on sponsoring your stuff. They need to know that when they pay you cash to be in front of their audience, it's their people too. And when you tell them, they're mostly female, they're mostly ages 35 through 55, their household income is 150,000 a year or more. When you start telling them that they like to travel, somebody like Marriott's going to go, those are my people, right? So that's what the type of thing you need to do. Then go borrow from other superstars out there. Go look at what other people do with their media kits. If this is new to you, just go mimic it. There are just tons and tons of examples out there. Just go find your superstar that you like and go mimic their media kit. And to start with, you may be making things up. Not making up your stats, but you may be making up what you charge. That's okay. Newsletter space is the wild, wild west. You're going to ask me, what should you charge? And the answer is whatever you can. Let's think about this for a second. Here's the advantages that sponsoring a newsletter has over everything else. I can send it out immediately. I have a target audience that it's a really, statistically speaking, there's a really good chance they'll see my message. More than doing an Instagram reel or something. More than almost any other. You will have the power of knowing results like that. You attach the right UTM parameters that sends traffic back to your brand or back to your website, which then leads to their brand, whatever it may be. They'll know where that traffic came from. It's very attributable. So they know results. So there's a lot of good reasons why they might want to do this. Now, here are just some examples of companies that monetize in different ways. And then I'm going to get into some creative ways to do this that some of my clients and that I personally have done in the past. Here's some companies that monetize. You can go look these up. Sparkloop is they started out as a referral program. You've seen this probably, that says, share this newsletter with your friends and you do 10 of them and you get a free hat. You know, it's that kind of thing. They have added to their services where other newsletters will pay you for mentioning their newsletter. Okay, so somebody like the Morning Brew, because they've figured out the ad monetization, they know how much a subscriber is worth. So they can say to somebody like, you know, hey, Susan, you get somebody to sign up for me, I'll pay you $1.50. All right, so that's just one thing to think about. Costs you nothing to sign up for that, by the way. Right now, it's kind of limited in the newsletters that are out there, but there might be something in there that's in your network that makes sense. Paved is one that I'm working on right now. Some of you on this call know what I'm talking about, but I am experimenting with. They have two services. The first service is a marketplace, as I mentioned earlier, where you say, I will sell a dedicated newsletter for this much. I will sell this spot for this much. And you put it out there, and then people who are, basically it kind of serves as your media kit where you can showcase, and then, or people go through Paved and when they're looking for newsletters to sponsor, they find yours, do that. I don't have a lot of success with that in my space. Again, I find that's more in financial, tech, software, that type of space works real well with that, but not as much for some of the content that I've been featuring there. However, it doesn't mean it's not worthy of throwing something up there. The thing that I'm playing with right now is that they have a model where they pay you per click, but they create the creative, kind of like Raptive does on your website. They do this in a newsletter, and then they pay you per click. All right, so I'm going to be doing some experiments on this one over the coming months. If you want to know more about that or follow along, make sure that you're signed up for my, for the Email and Autopilot Facebook group, because I'll probably be talking about that if it goes well. Live Intent, this is that kind of ugly one that I showed you that had the big ad at the top. You know what? If you have a large enough list, that might be worth, and you're concerned about monetization, and you know what, if you figure out how it fits into your brand, that might be one to look at. They do those inserts of those ads. ConvertKit Sponsor Network. I'm just going to mention this one because I know some of you are on ConvertKit or that you've thought about it. So last year, this concept makes a lot of sense. It hasn't been perfect for you and me just yet. Here's what they've done. They basically say, we have access to a lot of newsletter creators. We're going to go make a relationship with some brands, and then we will sell ad space in your newsletter for you. You keep 76%, we keep the rest. Sounds great, because they promise to actually write the emails, do the insertion, and do the whole thing. The challenge that I found, because I work a lot with a lot of food creators, but I know some of you are in other areas like DIY, gardening, crafts, what have you. They have not gone to that level for those niches yet. It's working great if you, again, are in B2B, or you're in marketing or software or financial products. They're doing a lot there because there's a lot of advertising money to be spent there. They don't have a big enough team where they figured out how to go get, reliable food advertisers or craft advertisers just yet. It holds a lot of promise. I'm excited for it if they can figure it out. It makes a lot of logical sense to me. But so far it hasn't come to fruition just yet. But I'm bringing it up so if you're on ConvertKit, you're aware of it, or even if you're not on ConvertKit, you're aware of it and you're paying attention to what's happening. Because if they do figure it out, the payouts on some of the tests that they did were fantastic. So, we'll see where that goes. If you know of any other companies, drop them here in the chat. Other people might be interested to know how you monetize. There's other things like what's reward style called now? It has a different name. A lot of people use that one. And I'd like to know it too, what the name is. I just can't remember it. Anyway, if you think of it, let me know. All right, let's talk about other creative ways. What could you do when you have a brand partner? If you're not using these and you're going to go do it yourself. By the way, doing it yourself is probably, if I went back here, I'd probably start as a DIY. Don't rely on an agency to do this for you just yet. There's a reason for that. Well, first is most bloggers kind of stink at email. And what does that mean? That means that the agencies that serve bloggers don't know about email. So they don't even know how to talk to your brand, to the potential brand. You are further ahead because you're in this course. You're in this mastermind. You already have probably more knowledge about this than some of these ad reps, agency reps, okay? So what are some things that you can do? If you do decide to get into sponsored posts, as some of you may decide to do that in the future, offer the email as an upsell. So remember that media kit we were talking about? Your email list should be a line item in there, and it should have a cost. Now, you don't have to sell it at that cost. You can do deals. You can throw in the email as a bonus value to put together a bigger package to get Instagram Reels. And you're going to be creating the content anyway. Can you eke a few extra $100? Like to know. Yeah, if you could eke a few more $100 out of it, can you do it? You can do that by simply assigning it a value. Again, it's hard to say exactly what that value should be, but start with a CPM that seems fair to you and maybe go a little bit below it. Let me give you I'll start with this one. If you have a brand partner that likes you, and by the way, if you have an affiliate partner that likes you, they're a great place to start. Negotiate some sort of ongoing sponsored email. Most people aren't going to do weekly or dailies, but they might do something once a month or whatever. In my experience, when you get the right partner and it starts to work, they'll lock you in. Here's what's going on in most brand managers' worlds. They have a budget, they have a boss. Their boss says, I need a certain amount of eyeballs, here's the money, go make it happen. So what do? If I've got, let's just round figures, I got $1 million to spend this quarter. Well, I'm going to put, X of it into Google network. I'm going to put Y of it into Facebook network. I'm going to and maybe I'll do a little bit over here with the Tasty Traveler. Now, why would they do that? Because you rock. You have proven that you can touch their target audience and you can do it reliably well. And you'll do it over and over and over again. Be good is what I'm saying. So if you do that, then the brand manager, every time he or she is making out that budget, just goes, oh, the Tasty Traveler they're worth, several $1,000s to me every quarter because it just works. So I'm just going to leave that there. I don't have to worry. It's one less thing for them to worry about. So if you go get some of these ongoing deals, you're going to want to book them well in advance and create the calendar. Just logical, right? You're going to want to provide really great previews for their approval. Working with a brand can be difficult. It depends on the brand. Some of them have legal teams that need to review everything, right? It can be a little bit of a pain in the patootie, but you're going to get past that by being great. So provide a preview, deliver on time, and then proactively offer stats. Like I'm talking about, but I actually need to rephrase this a little bit, or add to it. I'm going to put communicate immediately, because what really needs to happen is on the day of, let's say it's a Monday and you send this out, Monday afternoon, you're hitting them up and asking them, how's it going over there? What does it look like on your side? That's scary. You're like, you're biting your nails on it because you're worried that maybe it doesn't, you're looking at the results, maybe it doesn't look like it's going to fit their objectives. But if we've set this up and they're tracking it, they're going to tell you right away. And you may be surprised that what doesn't seem good to you might be good to them. So then proactively offer stats. This is what it did, this is how it went. And guess what? Email is cheap. So if you need to, it's real easy for you to do a make good. A make good is simply, okay, we didn't get as much as we wanted the first time. Let's send another email. No cost, no problem. Call it a make good. Here's a fun way to do to be a little different. I had a client do this and I thought it was really great. Food creator, had a relationship with Kroger, and did a quick start guide based off of a series of sponsorships from Kroger. And it was about summer produce. I don't remember the title, but it was something along the lines of, recipes that go great with amazing summer produce. So it was very seasonal, summery. And the seasonality made it so it would end, so she didn't have to, she wasn't committed to running it forever. This was a value add on top of these other sponsors post package that she had put together. And she just was able to say that this quick start guide was brought to you by Kroger. And then the emails were sponsored, the posts were sponsored, the whole thing was sponsored. And guess what? She's growing her email list with it. So this feels like a thing, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like just an accident or a one-off. It's a campaign. So what I'm getting at here is use your common sense, put yourself in the shoes of both your brand and your consumer, and how do we marry the two together? It's something like Quick Start Guide worked great. The other thing that she did is she invited her existing subscribers to go through it. She said, hey, I made this guide on how to, really enjoy this season's vegetables, fruits and vegetables. Go get it. It's 5 emails. Kroger likes that because it goes to her entire base. And those that want it are getting hit 5 emails in a row, 5 days in a row, okay? What about the email power boost? This is a fun one that I have done to good success with people that are just getting their toes, dipping their toes into these waters, is if you have this works great if you have a successful sponsored post, okay? You have a brand that liked what you just did. Go back to them and say, hey, tell you what, remember that successful sponsored post we did together? It was great, right? Well, I want to do what I call a email power boost. You call it whatever you want. Where over the next 3 months, I'm going to send 1 email per month back to that same article. I'm just going to creatively talk about it different every time. But you're pointing to the same place. You're pointing to the same article. So let's just use an example. Let's say your advertiser was Fleischmann's Yeast, and you had created you'd created a white bread recipe with Fleischmann's Yeast. What you could do is you could say in the first week, say the perfect white bread recipe. Okay, so that's number 1. But number 2 could be, Remember that smell of baked bread in the morning when you were a kid? Something nostalgic, something like that. You could also the next month say, this is the perfect project to teach your kids how to bake. Each one sends you back to white bread. You're just talking about it a little bit differently. And then you just go, because they were happy with it the first time. You just say, hey, look, for 20% of what I charged you, we'll just do these emails. What do you say? This is a good way to introduce somebody to the power of email, especially somebody who already likes you, already had success. All right. What are some other thoughts here? Well, if you get into this space, organization is key, because there's real money on it, right? Not just your time, but there's a brand that is out there that's potentially going, I paid you for this, I want results. Now, some of you are going to say that stress is not worth it. But if you can get organized around it, it's really not that bad. In fact, I had just recently a great partner that loved me and started out as an affiliate partner, and then became, and they ended up spending every month. They would pay me for a dedicated email, one per month, to a particular audience. It wasn't even my whole list. It was a segment of my audience, because that's who they catered to. And it wasn't like, I took a Gap ad or something and dropped it in there. It was, I was thoughtful about how would I make this brand and my content go together so that it feels natural to and helpful to my newsletter subscriber. They loved it. In fact, it got to the point where I was giving them suggestions about what to promote that next month. Like, look, I know you all are doing this. What if we did this article? Great, I love it. And it was so hands-off, because that brand partner learned to trust. If you have no budget, or your brand has no budget, you might even want to offer it for free. This was here from back in the, this thought comes from back in the days of the pandemic. Remember when many of our brand partners, their budgets just dried up too. The point is, if you want to get in and prove yourself, just do it. If there's a brand that's like perfect for your space, like the Dream Box or something, you might want to just show them what's possible. Because if you're wrong, then nobody loses anything, and you learn. Don't judge results on the first try. Okay, this is for both you and the brand partner, because if you're just getting started with this, there's going to be a learning curve, and your audience, there's going to be a little bit of learning what your audience might be interested in as well. So just because you send out an email the first time, let's say you throw ButcherBox in there. If you've never mentioned ButcherBox before, that actually is kind of, it's not that it's harsh, but it's just like, oh, they're paying the bills. But if you mention ButcherBox pretty regularly over the course of a long-term relationship, they're going to go, oh yeah, Ashley is all about ButcherBox. That's just part of her, her stack of things she loves. It feels more authentic. I have a certain podcast I listen to, and the guy, he's talking about Felix Gray glasses, and he just talks about them all the time, and he just genuinely loves Felix Gray glasses. In fact, I'm wearing them right now, and he goes on and on about it. And I've come to believe that he actually does love Felix Gray glasses. And that kind of goes to Lauren's point of, I don't want to promote stuff I don't actually use. So it's best if you do find those matches. Okay. All right. Well, I could go on about that, but I think you get the general idea. As far as other things that you can sell, or other ways to make money, I'm just going to throw out some hodgepodge things. There are membership groups. There are, of course, Facebook groups. There's a software called Circle. There's Memberful. These are platforms that will help you host a membership group. Now, what might that look like? Well, here's an example of this. By the way, you can see I switched gears from sponsorship to selling something else. The Lazy Day Cooking Club. All right, here's a very specific example where Carrie talks about meal prep. And then it's a forum and with tips and shopping lists and recipes and all that stuff. Okay, so people just like being a member. They get special premium content, and this is 20 savory recipes every month, organized principal shopping lists, an active Facebook group, easy to follow instructions. So here's just an example of how you can monetize your audience by creating a membership. Patreon. We see this all the time in the arts, but why not you? If you can create different value add for your Patreon members, it could be exclusive tutorials. It could be special Facebook Live trainings and get-togethers and webinars. It could be a special ebooks that you write for them. Whatever. The point with Patreon is somebody is raising their hand saying, I just like what you do. I'm going to support you. And in return, you're going to give me more stuff. So it's both. It allows them to say they're supporting you and also get in exchange bonus stuff for supporting you. But it doesn't always have to be 100%, every super duper clear. Like I'm buying a membership. Sometimes just being a Patreon member. So do some studies on that. This is a highly underutilized tool in our space. But imagine in email, you would use your email list to talk about your Patreon. If you're in this food space, there are services like Prepare, where you can promote, you can put your meal plans, your recipes into their app and monetize that way. You can sell cookbooks and stuff on the app. You can get paid with for views of your recipes on the app, but you would use your email to push people to it. You might create I put Substack here because Substack is well known for creating premium newsletters. What would that be in your space? The founder of a paid newsletter. The founder of ConvertKit, Nathan Barry, he has a paid newsletter that he charges $99 one time for. And it is financial driven. So it's like understanding personal finance and building wealth. And it's targeted at a very certain audience. But you know how he did it? He did it with the equivalent of a Forever series. So he's written the content and then it's delivered one per week. He doesn't necessarily say that way, but email number one is still always email number one, and because you're in this series. So what would that be? I don't know. Is that it's kind of like a course, but not really. If you said, I'm going to give you the premium newsletter for it's $30, and I'm going to teach you over a 6-month period, I'm going to teach you the basics for how to crochet. 1 email per week. All the content could be in the newsletter, in the email. How many people would sign up for that? I think it's more than 0. So it's those types of things that you could build and use your existing platform to run it. It's already there. If you're on ConvertKit, they even have something called ConvertKit Commerce built in, which will take orders for you, and you don't have to sign up with any other service. So those are some different things. Let me just show you a few more. Sweet Red Poppy does a membership group, has different levels. The Cricut Academy, this is Corey George from Hey Let's Make Stuff. You get access to over 200 lessons. Could you repurpose some of your existing content, package it up so it's special and organized and thought through, and make a course or a membership group out of it, and then use your email list to drive people to it? You might also take your ebooks, make a, you get access to this thing behind a paywall. That's not necessarily email. These things aren't necessarily email, but email is crucial to driving people to them. Here's the Grill Squad. This is a, can't remember. This is cake decorating. So there's lots of different ways that you can make money. All right. So a couple of things to keep in mind as we kind of wrap up this point. Don't be afraid of selling something, and don't devalue your own content. What do I mean by that? I get a lot of people that are scared to sell something. I've been giving away free stuff for a long time. Well, guess what? Your free stuff was amazing. Your paid stuff is off the charts. Don't apologize ever for selling your own product. And then learn quickly. Don't waste time on stuff that doesn't matter. If you're finding that you're throwing something out there and it doesn't stick, okay, well, let's pivot. Let's move on. Here's a couple of things to consider. Number one, get the value proposition right. Sometimes we just aren't very good at articulating exactly what solution we are offering, what problem we're solving. You got to nail that. Whatever you put together, promote it regularly, constantly, in different ways, in your footer, in dedicated emails, whatever it may be. The reason I say that is your audience gets used to it. It becomes part of your identity that you have the Lazy Day Cooking Club or whatever, right? It's part of your business. This is one that you and I may have some similarities. There might be some introverts on this session. I'm not that introverted, but I am also super duper comfortable behind my screen. I have one of my greatest regrets in business. Some colleagues and I started a company, and we thought we had it all figured out. And we never figured out exactly how to make it work because we didn't get out there and do it. We built the business from our desks and didn't go talk to customers. So go talk to the customers. By the way, here's the thing you'll learn. Use their words. Forget about your words. How do they talk about your offering? How do they talk about gardening? How do they talk about crochet? How do they talk about the Ninja Creami? Use their words, because your words may be too advanced, or they're jargony, or they come from some other place, well-intentioned as it may be, that is not their words. I talked to you about this a few times, but build a promotional calendar. Get organized. Don't miss the opportunities. Many of you are missing Mother's Day right now. And whatever you do, you're missing Mother's Day. Many of you we're about to go into summer and you're missing the summer crochet bundle. I'm just making that up. I don't know who that's aimed at. Not aimed at anybody, right? Because probably you don't have a promotional calendar. You haven't thought that through. I talked about this a lot, so I won't spend more time on it, but do figure out how to get the testimonials. One last one, if you can. This is not a must, but oh my goodness, it helps you. Find the commercial intent. What do I mean? How does your product or service, how does anything you're doing with your email help somebody to either make money or save money? That's where the brands are. That's where the bigger dollars are. So if you have not, now look, gardening as a hobby is great. I'm not saying there are plenty of people who will spend money on that, all right? However, they might also pay more if they feel like they can make money doing it. or they can save money doing it. One of my clients is in the chicken space, you know, the chicken space. In January, their traffic doubled during the egg shortage because people wanted to go raise chickens, and it created all this interest. And some of the rationale was, I want to make money or save money on eggs, which actually doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but some of you love that, and that's, or it's just the independence, right? Of not having to depend on somebody else. It was an awakening. So that, but that's money related. There's a commercial intent there. All right. Let's just hold up there. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope that these sessions, you have found an idea or two that help you make some money with your email. Let's recap briefly though. It all starts with list growth. If you're not growing as fast as you want to be, go back and revisit session number 1. Think about that in terms of segmentation. Your existing traffic is your best source of list growth. Martha is on the site right now. She's on your YouTube channel right now. She's on your Instagram right now. And she is not signing up for your newsletter because you're not taking advantage. You're not solving her existing problem. You're not talking to her in a way that makes sense for her. Second, be smart about what you're sending. Let's solve our readers' problems. People don't read, they skim. Let's be more deliberate with our calendars. Let's send more emails. I'm just really summarizing here. Third, segment your list. Help your audience where they are. Don't send Mickey Mouse coloring pages to somebody who wants to go on a Disney cruise when you know everything there is about Disney cruises, right? That just doesn't make sense. And then don't send Disney cruise information to somebody who's not going on a Disney cruise. That makes even less sense. Segmenting. And then find your way with some of these ways that we've talked about making money. You'll notice there is no silver bullet here. If you were coming to this mastermind hoping that I was going to give you 1 or 2 things that just like turn this on and there's instant money, that does not exist. But I am telling you that this pattern, grow the list, serve your audience more and more and more through email, will open up all these other possibilities. So I hope you found a nugget or 2 that will help you with your revenue hopes and dreams for your business. If you would like, if this is helpful to you, do me a favor. This is me asking for a testimonial. See how this is done? There's 2 things that you could do that would help me. And I think they help you too. The first one really helps you too, is to tell your rep at Raptive that this was helpful. They have, they devote resources. They pay real dollars for me to do this. They wanted to pay me in dairy products initially, and I said, hey, whoa, you know what? Lactose intolerant, could be, I don't know if I am, but I don't want to risk it. So how about we do it in US currency? And so now they send me, you know, rolls of pennies, and they show up at my door, but it is real dollars that they're spending on this. And that means that they're investing in you. If this was useful to you, they'll probably invest in something else for you that they find useful. Let's encourage them to keep doing this on whatever that may be, TikTok or video or wherever we're going next. And then if you felt so inclined, I'll drop the Trustpilot in here. If you felt so inclined, a review from you would really help my cred. Remember those words I said in my canned email that I showed you? But I appreciate it. Last, I'm not taking down the second to last. I'm not taking down the Facebook group for a while. So feel free to communicate with each other and with me in there if you have questions as you're going through this. We have a few people that it's been fun that are coming in at the course a little bit later, and they're just kind of catching up. So kudos to y'all for watching the replays, and we'll keep that support going. If you need, this is not a sales pitch at all. But if you decide that at some point you want to go next level with your email, just email me and let's talk about it. Maybe I can help, maybe. But you have a lot of information here to get going. All right. I hope this has been great. Thank you for being here. If you have questions, I'll stick around. I got nothing else going on the rest of the day. I'll be happy to answer your individual questions while we have each other. But if you got to get out of here, I understand. This is like signing each other's yearbooks, and we just, have a great summer. We'll keep in touch. We'll be best friends forever. I know we will. But let's see each other maybe at a Raptive event in the future. All right. Thanks, everybody. If you have a question, go ahead and unmute. Otherwise, get out of here and have a great weekend. Thanks, Susan. Good luck.